Hello, thank you for joining with me as we continue our exploration, our conversation on A Course in Miracles. Together in these videos we read a section of the text, and so today we'll be reading from chapter 21, section 7, and then in these videos we also practice a lesson together, and today's lesson will be number 47, and then we look at one of the principles of miracles, and today's principle will be number 15. But before I go to the text, I just wanted to share that I think my mum and I experienced another Mandela effect. And so together we were preparing for her birthday party, and we were putting together a slideshow with photographs of different events and ages and stages and graces of her life. And so we were looking in a box that we have had in our family from the time that I can remember, full of those photo envelopes, right? When we used to get our photographs printed properly. And I picked up one of the packets and I looked in the photographs, and I'd never seen these photographs before. And so I said to my mum, did you put some new envelopes, some new photographs in the box? And she said no, and then I showed her the pictures, and she didn't recall these pictures. She could recall the events, but she didn't recall how those pictures got in this particular box. And so I said, Mum, I think we've slipped through a tear in the fabric of time and space, and we're on a different timeline for these photographs to miraculously appear in this box. And again, this box is a box that I'm very familiar with. I've been in that box many times. I was in that box when my dad passed away a couple of years ago to put a photo story together around him, and so I know the photographs in that box. Okay, so let's continue on with our exploration. I'm going to go ahead and share our screen. And I click on Read A Course in Miracles, clicking on the text and scrolling down to chapter 21, Reason and Perception, and we are in section 7, the last unanswered question. Paragraph 1. Do you not see that all your misery comes from the strange belief that you are powerless? Being helpless is the cost of sin. Helplessness is sin's condition, the one requirement that it demands to be believed. Only the helpless could believe in it. Enormity has no appeal save to the little, and only those who first believe that they are little could see attraction there. Treachery to the Son of God is the defense of those who do not identify with him. And you are for him or against him. Either you love him or attack him, protect his unity, or see him shattered and slain by your attack. Okay. All right, just a reminder that sin in the Course in Miracles, as far as the Course in Miracles is concerned, sin is lovelessness. And so what this is saying then is being helpless is the cost of lovelessness, of subscribing to lovelessness. And when there is this lack of love or perceived lack of love, then that's when we are moved, the part of the mind that believes that is moved to defend, and if there is defense, then there must be attack, because without something to attack, there would be no need to defend. So it says helplessness is sin's condition. Helplessness is lovelessness's condition. And so if you are inherently without love, without the connection to love, then you must be helpless. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then only the helpless could believe in sin. Only the helpless could believe in lovelessness. And then the paragraph is using the word enormity. So it's saying that, so there are two things that are being conveyed in this paragraph. Is one, that we are powerful. There in the first sentence it says, "Do you not see that all your misery comes from the strange belief that you are powerless?" So if the opposite is true, that means that we are powerful. And if we are powerful, then that has a sense of enormity, of expansiveness, compared to littleness and helplessness. And then it says further on in the paragraph, "And only those who first believe that they are little and therefore helpless could see attraction there in lovelessness, in sin." And again, the known sins that you can bring to mind are simply an effect, a kind of flavor of lovelessness being played out here in this realm. So this paragraph finishes with, "Treachery to the Son of God is the defense of those who do not identify with him." So the Son of God being Christ, being the Holy Spirit. And so if we're not identifying with him, that is the treachery. And then it says, "And either you are for him or you're against him, either you love him or you attack him, either you protect his unity or you see him shattered and slain by your attack." And so let's see what's going to happen in paragraph 2. Let me go ahead and share the screen again. Okay, so "No one believes the Son of God is powerless, and those who see themselves as helpless must believe that they are not the Son of God. What can they be except his enemy? And what can they do but envy him his power, and by their envy make themselves afraid of it? These are the dark ones, silent and afraid, alone and not communicating, fearful the power of the Son of God will strike them dead, and raising up their helplessness against him. They join the army of the powerless to wage their war of vengeance, bitterness and spite on him, to make him one with them. Because they do not know that they are one with him. They know not whom they hate. They are indeed a sorry army, each one as likely to attack his brother or turn upon himself as to remember that they thought they had a common cause." I think this is an interesting paragraph in the way that it uses the pronoun they. So as we're reading it, then it's talking about them. It's not talking about us. And I find this clever, because what ends up happening is, well, or at least what I can say what's happening for me as I read it is that, well, I don't want that to be me. I don't want to be helpless and vengeful and disconnected from the Christos, from Christ, from unconditional divine love. And so it, in a way, serves to anchor my conviction, to commit to my connection and my relationship and my identification with the Holy Spirit, with Christ, with the Christos. So I wonder how this paragraph lands for you. Do you notice that, or does the othering trigger something uncomfortable inside? Because the language is quite forceful, right? It's saying, if you do not see yourself as a son of God, connected in that way, then you must be the enemy. Okay, so now we have the language of enemy, and then they must envy his power, Through the envy, there's fear. And then it describes them. These are the dark ones, silent and afraid. There's the language of vengeance and bitterness, right? So I'm curious how this paragraph lands in the way that it's setting up the point of view to I think in a way have us subconsciously or consciously choose not to be that. And that's the way that we learn in this realm. We learn through paradox, we learn through contrast, we learn through the opposites. And so oftentimes the characters in our lives who behave in ways that we don't like or don't want, that are painful, even traumatic, they're offering an opportunity for us to choose not to be that, to make a decision to be convicted in not being that, and being that which we are learning here is to be the true essence or the true light of us, the God spark in us, and then to actively and consciously connect with that and choose that. So let's keep going for paragraph 3. Frantic and loud and strong, the dark ones seem to be. Yet they know not their enemy, except they hate him. In hatred they've come together, but have not joined each other. For had they done so, hatred would be impossible. The army of the powerless must be disbanded in the presence of strength. Those who are strong are never treacherous, because they have no need to dream of power and to act out their dream. How would an army act in dreams? Any way at all. It could be seen attacking anyone with anything. Dreams have no reason in them. A flower turns into a poisoned spear. A child becomes a giant. And a mouse roars like a lion. And love is turned to hate as easily. This is no army but a madhouse. What seems to be a planned attack is bedlam. Wow. Oh. This paragraph seems to be describing the very forces that seem to be in control of this world. The ones that do seem to hate humanity. And the word hate is such a strong word. It's awkward for me to say. It's a word that I let go a long, long, long time ago. And when I do hear the word, it feels immature. So when I did first read the word hate, when I first started reading the text, I was taken aback by it because it's such a strong word. But perhaps it's being used very deliberately to have a certain kind of impact. And I think, again, these paragraphs are really inviting us or showing us paradox and teaching us through contrast that this is what's out there, or at least appears to be the ones who seem to hate humanity. And what are they truly hating? So we think that as a result we are powerless in the face of this level of consciousness, this archetypal energy that really seems to be determined to enslave us. Now we can look at that superficially and say, well, they're looking to enslave us so that there is a debt-slave type system to keep us divided and distracted and angry and afraid in order to have control, because it's so much easier to control a people that is not united. So I wonder, this paragraph really seems to be saying that there is the appearance of these ones who are powerful, but they're only powerful within the dreamscape. And then actually within the dream, it's all upside down and backwards. That, what did it say? Let me just go back and take a look at it. A flower turns into a poisoned spear. A child becomes a giant. A mouse roars like a lion. So let's look at paragraph 4. See if we can learn something more. The army of the powerless is weak indeed. It has no weapons and it has no enemy. Yes, it can overrun the world and seek an enemy, but it can never find what is not there. Yes, it can dream it found an enemy, but this will shift even as it attacks, so that it runs at once to find another and never comes to rest in victory. And as it runs, it turns against itself, thinking it caught a glimpse of the great enemy who always eludes its murderous attack by turning into something else. How treacherous does this enemy appear, who changes, so it is impossible even to recognize him. I wonder how you are interpreting these paragraphs. I think what I was getting at in my summary of the previous paragraph was that there does seem to be this consciousness, this choice that happens in a mind that has turned humanity into an enemy. And what I was going to say is that at face value, it seems like there is this motive to keep humanity small and poor and afraid and enslaved. But actually, what I meant to say, what I wanted to say, was that more deeply down, it's so that we are so distracted that we have difficulty accessing the truth of our nature. And what I like about this paragraph is that it's showing us the archetype of the shapeshifter, that the consciousness that is seeking power ends up meeting itself every time, that it's projecting its own lovelessness and therefore attack onto humanity. But humanity, in its innocence and in the collective sonship, simply acts as a mirror so that they end up seeing themselves reflected in that. They can't see the truth because their minds are disconnected from the truth of what we are, from love. If there is attack, there must be fear. And if there is fear, it must mean that there is a lack of love there. When there is a lack of love, there is powerlessness and helplessness. And so it's out of that powerlessness, it's out of that helplessness that then there is this drive to seek and get more power. Let's continue for paragraph 5. Yet hate must have a target. There can be no faith in sin without an enemy. Who that believes in sin would dare believe he has no enemy? Could he admit that no one made him powerless? Reason would surely bid him seek no longer what is not there to find. Yet first, he must be willing to perceive a world where it is not. It is not necessary that he understand how he can see it, nor should he try. For if he focuses on what he cannot understand, he will but emphasize his helplessness and let sin tell him that his enemy must be himself. Right? But let him only ask himself these questions, which he must decide to have it done for him. Do I desire a world I rule instead of one that rules me? Do I desire a world where I am powerful instead of helpless? Do I desire a world in which I have no enemies and cannot sin? And do I want to see what I denied because it is the truth? So let's just take a moment and ask ourselves these questions. See what comes up out of the stillness. So perhaps take a minute to close your eyes. Send out the question and just see what bubbles up out of your inner terrain. So the first question is, do I desire a world I rule instead of one that rules me? I mean, the answer is yes, right? Do I desire a world I rule instead of one that rules me? Question 2. Do I desire a world where I am powerful instead of helpless? Well, again, the answer is yes, right? We want to feel full up. We want to feel powerful. When we feel powerful, we feel okay, we feel safe, we perhaps have room for curiosity and energy to create, to play, to expand, right? That's what power feels like. Question 3. Do I desire a world in which I have no enemies and cannot sin? Yes, we do. What the paragraph was saying to us is that only in fear can there be a perceived enemy, because what would there be to fear? Without a perceived enemy, there would be fearlessness. And again, sin is lovelessness. So, do I desire a world in which I have no enemies, where there is only acceptance and allowance and cannot sin and can only be love? So basically number 3 is, do I desire a world in which there is only love? The last question, and do I want to see what I denied because it is the truth? So when the mind is split and is defaulted in the quagmire of guilt and fear, anger, worry, doubt, and so on, then when you're embedded in that, there is no access to truth. And so truth has been denied. So do you want to see what's on the other side of the guilt, the fear, the anger, the worry, the doubt, the grievances? Do I want to see what's on the other side? Do I want to see what I denied because it is the truth? Okay. Yes, we do. So let's see what happens next. Paragraph 6. You may already have answered the first 3 questions, but not yet the last. For this one still seems fearful and unlike the others. Yet reason would assure you they are all the same. We said this year would emphasize the sameness of things that are the same. This final question, which is indeed the last you need decide, still seems to hold a threat the rest have lost for you. And this imagined difference attests to your belief that truth may be the enemy you yet may find. Here then would seem to be the last remaining hope of finding sin and not accepting power. Yeah, it's so interesting because we are in this paradoxical way of being in the world. We saw during COVID how compassion became weaponized and how fear turned good people into the kind of characters that we labeled in history as the brown shirts. where they became the moral police of society, willing to take away another's choice for perceived safety. And so for me, what I love about the Course is that it teaches you a much deeper safety, a much deeper sense of peace, where it would never occur to you to want to control the choices of another human being when it comes to what medical treatments or practices that they would want to apply to themselves or to their families. So these paragraphs, this section is very pertinent and very relevant for how we're showing up in the world and how the world is unfolding in front of us at this time, and has been unfolding graphically in the last 5 years, but when you look into history, for a very long time. And again, the Course in Miracles was scribed in the 60s and the 70s. It was scribed over a 7-year period in the 60s and the 70s. So these words were coming through at that time. And what was happening at that time? That same level of consciousness that loves war, that loves power, that loves to play the monopoly game with money, with currency, to keep people enslaved through the monetary system. That is just an overlay. It's fake. It's fake. But we were born into it. We have just taken it on board as much as when you ask a fish, how's the water? And the fish says, what water? What is water? We're the same. We're like, oh, this is just how it is. This is how it works. When we don't take our thinking further, it's how we become complicit. So let's go back to the first paragraph, which was saying, what if we realized how powerful we are, how enormous we are? One time I was watching a video with a friend of mine, and it was actually on the Bilderberg group. And there was a little blip as we were watching the video, just a little flash of black. And so I said to my friend, did you see that? Did you notice that? And she said, no, what? And so I said, oh, let's rewind it. So we rewound it, watched it again. There was that blip of black, a black frame. And so I kept rewinding and stopping, rewinding and stopping, rewinding, stopping. I managed to get the frame. And let me see, I'll be able to find it for you. I have it on my phone still, I think. Okay, so I took a screenshot of it. The frame said, but what difference does it make anyway? You can't do anything. You humans are too weak. Now, this was supposed to be seen by our subconscious because it was too quick for our conscious mind and our physical eyes to see it. This was a moment that was pretty eye-opening for me because, speaking of perspective, the author is calling us you humans. So does that mean that the writer is not a human? But what difference does it make anyway? You can't do anything. You humans are too weak. And so there is a consciousness that wants us to believe that. And this section seems to be showing us who they are, and to, most importantly, remind us of our power. So let's continue now to see where we end up. How many more to go? Okay, oh, quite a bit. Paragraph 7. Forget not that the choice of sin or truth, helplessness or power is the choice of whether to attack or heal. For healing comes of power and attack of helplessness. Nice. Whom you attack, you cannot want to heal. And whom you would have healed must be the one you chose to be protected from attack. And what is this decision but the choice whether to see him through the body's eyes or let him be revealed to you through vision? How this decision leads to its effects is not your problem. But what you want to see must be your choice. This is a course in cause and not effect. Wow, so good. Let's keep going for paragraph 8. Consider carefully your answer to the last question you have left unanswered still. And let your reason tell you that it must be answered and is answered in the other 3. And then it will be clear to you that, as you look on the effects of sin in any form, all you need do is simply ask yourself, is this what I would see? Do I want this? Paragraph 9. This is your one decision. This is the condition for what occurs. It is irrelevant to how it happens, but not to why. You have control of this. And if you choose to see a world without an enemy in which you are not helpless, the means to see it will be given you. Paragraph 10. Why is this final question so important? Reason will tell you why. It is the same as are the other 3, except in time. The others are decisions that can be made and then unmade and made again. But truth is constant and implies a state where vacillations are impossible. You can desire a world you rule that rules you not, and change your mind. You can desire to exchange your helplessness for power, and lose this same desire as a little glint of sin attracts you. And you can want to see a sinless world, and let an enemy tempt you to use the body's eyes and change what you desire. Paragraph 11. In content, all the questions are the same, for each one asks if you are willing to exchange the world of sin for what the Holy Spirit sees, since it is this the world of sin denies. And therefore those who look on sin are seeing the denial of the real world. Yet the last question adds the wish for constancy in your desire to see the real world. So the desire becomes the only one you have. By answering the final question, yes, you add sincerity to the decisions you have already made to all the rest. For only then have you renounced the option to change your mind again. When it is this you do not want, the rest are wholly answered. Wow. So what do you think of that? So the last question is about truth, which is eternal, which is timeless. So the question again is, do I want to see what I denied because it is the truth? So do I want to share Christ's vision? That's what this is asking us, that the previous questions can change depending on what distracts us, but the final question anchors us into wanting the eternal over the temporary, over the elusive, over the frivolous. Paragraph 12. Let me go back to share the screen. Why do you think you are unsure the others have been answered? Could it be necessary they be asked so often if they had? Until the last decision has been made, the answer is both yes and no. For you have answered yes without perceiving that yes must mean not no. No one decides against his happiness, but he may not do so if he does not see he does. And if he sees his happiness as ever changing, now this, now that, and now an elusive shadow attached to nothing, he does not decide against it. Yeah, and we can see this just in our everyday vices, right? We could make a decision that I'm going to avoid sugar, or I'm not going to drink alcohol, or I'm going to exercise more, and then easily something else comes along and distracts us. So we are familiar with this. This is speaking to our nature, actually, where we've been spotlighted upon, we've been seen. Let's continue for paragraph 13, the last one. Elusive happiness, or happiness in changing form that shifts with time and place, is an illusion that has no meaning. Happiness must be constant, because it is attained by giving up the wish for the inconstant. Joy cannot be perceived except through constant vision, and constant vision can be given only those who wish for constancy. The power of the Son of God's desire remains the proof that he is wrong who sees himself as helpless. Desire what you want, and you will look on it and think it real. No thought but has the power to release or kill, and none can leave the thinker's mind or leave him unaffected. The truth of this is reflected in the Eastern healing arts. The healing art of Reiki, the Japanese healing art of Reiki, is the art of inviting happiness. And the healing art, the Japanese healing art of Jinshin Jutsu, is the art of compassion. And so what these are both pointing to, these healing arts, is that as we apply these principles and as we apply this philosophy and method of being, this way of being, this art of being, then we access the truth of our nature, the effect of which is happiness. And when we access the truth of our nature, that is the constant part of what we are. And so that's what this paragraph is saying. It's asking us to see the constant. It's asking us to choose that which is constant so that the effect is true happiness. It's also saying that the fact that we have the desire to know true happiness, that's enough. However, it's also reminding us that we are easily distracted. And if we are seeking happiness through what is fleeting and temporal, then true happiness will be elusive to us. I think this was a great section of the text. What do you think? So I'm going to go back and share the screen again. And we're going to go back now to practice our lesson. So I'm clicking on Workbook for Students, and we are at lesson number 47. And so, as usual, I'll have the narrator read the lesson. The idea for the lesson is God is the strength in which I trust. Perfect. Perfect for today's reading. All right.
Lesson 47. God is the strength in which I trust. If you are trusting in your own strength, you have every reason to be apprehensive, anxious, and fearful. What can you predict or control? What is there in you that can be counted on? What would give you the ability to be aware of all the facets of any problem and to resolve them in such a way that only good can come of it? What is there in you that gives you the recognition of the right solution and the guarantee that it will be accomplished? Of yourself, you can do none of these things. To believe that you can is to put your trust where trust is unwarranted, and to justify fear, anxiety, depression, anger, and sorrow. Who can put his faith in weakness and feel safe? Yet who can put his faith in strength and feel weak? God is your safety in every circumstance. His voice speaks for him in all situations and in every aspect of all situations, telling you exactly what to do to call upon his strength and his protection. There are no exceptions because God has no exceptions, and the voice which speaks for him thinks as he does. Today we will try to reach past your own weakness to the source of real strength. 4 5-minute practice periods are necessary today, and longer and more frequent ones are urged. Close your eyes and begin, as usual, by repeating the idea for the day. Then spend a minute or two in searching for situations in your life which you have invested with fear, dismissing each one by telling yourself, God is the strength in which I trust. Now try to slip past all concerns related to your own sense of inadequacy. It is obvious that any situation that causes you concern is associated with feelings of inadequacy, for otherwise you would believe that you could deal with the situation successfully. It is not by trusting yourself that you will gain confidence, but the strength of God in you is successful in all things. The recognition of your own frailty is a necessary step in the correction of your errors, but it is hardly a sufficient one in giving you the confidence which you need and to which you are entitled. You must also gain an awareness that confidence in your real strength is fully justified in every respect and in all circumstances. In the latter phase of the practice period, try to reach down into your mind to a place of real safety. You will recognize that you have reached it if you feel a sense of deep peace, however briefly. Let go all the trivial things that churn and bubble on the surface of your mind, and reach down and below them to the kingdom of heaven. There is a place in you where there is perfect peace. There is a place in you where nothing is impossible. There is a place in you where the strength of God abides. During the day, repeat the idea often. Use it as your answer to any disturbance. Remember that peace is your right, because you are giving your trust to the strength of God.
Amazing. All right, so today we're being invited to practice today's lesson, the idea for today's lesson, 4 times. 4 5-minute practice periods necessary today, it says, and longer and more frequent ones urged. So the invitation is to close your eyes, begin as usual by repeating the idea for the day, spend a minute or two searching for situations in your life which you have invested with fear, and dismissing each one by telling yourself, God is the strength in which I trust. And then the next step is to try to slip past all concerns related to your sense of inadequacy and go deeper into this deep well of peace that we have inside. I love how the lesson reminds us that there is a place in us where there is perfect peace. There is a place in us where nothing is impossible. There is a place in us where the strength of God abides. As always, just remember that this is a mini meditation, and so start to prepare by gently bringing your attention away from the fullness of your day. Just take a moment to be still. Give yourself permission to be still. If you're standing, you may want to sit down. Connect with the support of the furniture that's holding you in just the right amount. And come home to your next exhale, whenever that is for you. just releasing and letting go, perhaps inviting a sense of deeper relaxation into the muscles, into the shoulders, letting the hips sink more deeply into the support of the chair, the support of the furniture or the floor. Aware of the exhale and the inhale as they're happening. And just giving yourself permission to be here, to be where the body is. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and share the screen so you can see today's idea. God is the strength in which I trust. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start our timer. 5 minutes. Closing the eyes. Settling into the unconditional love and support that's here. And just reminding yourself, God is the strength in which I trust. God is the strength in which I trust. And take a few minutes to search your mind for situations in your life which you have invested with fear. And as you bring them to mind, just remind yourself, God is the strength in which I trust. And following the breath deeper and deeper into this vast well of peace that's within you. See if you can reach past the fear, the doubt, the worry, the grievance. that's our timer. And just to finish up, that it is God's strength that makes us powerful. And again, just to remind you that there is a place inside where there is perfect peace. There is a place inside where everything is possible. There is a place inside where the strength of God abides. And this is where we rest. This is the source of our true faith. And just to remind you of the mini practices that are encouraged to support today's lesson. And that is, if under any circumstance that you feel stressful, you're simply bringing to mind the idea for today's lesson. God is the strength in which I trust. And the lesson finishes by reminding us that peace is our right. It says, remember that peace is your right because you are giving your trust to the strength of God, right? Which is our faith. God is the source of our strength and the source of our faith. Okay, so let me see. So I'm going to go back and share the screen again to now look at the principle of miracles. So we go back to the text, the meaning of miracles, principles of miracles, and we are scrolling down to miracle number 15. And as usual, you might want to take a screenshot of the principle just to contemplate it as an additional meditation. Principle number 15. Each day should be devoted to miracles. The purpose of time is to enable you to learn how to use time constructively. It is thus a teaching device and a means to an end. Time will cease when it is no longer useful in facilitating learning. So it does sound like we're in a bit of a school, and part of the classroom includes time. But it's through the perception of time that we get an opportunity to feel and to experience all of the parts of us that only can exist in time. Because if there was no time, we would not be what we are. And I think that can be a very frightening idea, which comes back to that fourth question. Do we really want to know the truth, or do we want to cling on to that which is temporal, that which is impermanent? Because that's what we're used to as we are experiencing this life through this body. So wonderful. Well, thank you again for joining with me. It's really a delight to play in this way, to explore in this way. And I really love hearing your comments. And if you want to reach out to me, either in the comments or send me an email, let me know what this experience is like for you. And just to remind you too that I offer some practical classes, the mindfulness-based meditation class and the meditation and natural healing self-help class. I offer the mindfulness-based meditation class on the third Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. and the meditation and natural healing self-help class, which is where we practice self-treatment using Reiki and or Jinshin Jutsu. That is on the fourth Monday of the month. Both are at 7 p.m. Eastern. So if you go onto the website www.alilacenter.org and you click on the calendar of events, click on the description, then you'll be able to sign up using the registration link there. Easy. All right. Have a fantastic day, and I look forward to playing with you next time. Bye.